I used to think our life was steady, predictable, even. But now I look back and realize the unraveling had already begun before I noticed the thread coming loose. My name's Nick. I'm 42, live in Dayton, Ohio, and I restore antique pianos for a living. It's the kind of work that demands patience, attention to detail, and a steady hand. 3 things I thought I had in spades, especially in my marriage. But you can stare at a piece of wood for hours, polishing it, tuning the keys, and still miss the quiet crack forming down the middle. That's how it started with Lila. Quiet. At first, I told myself she was just tired. Work was demanding. She had just switched departments at the insurance company, and the new team was apparently chaotic. I offered to cook more, take over her chores for a bit, just to help ease the transition. But even when the workload at her job eased up, something between us didn't return. She stopped coming to concerts with me, something we always did together. I'd get 2 tickets, same box seats as always, and she'd wave me off with a vague excuse. Just too tired tonight, or you go, I'll just fall asleep anyway. And she wouldn't say it with a smile. It was flat, distant, like she was reciting from a script she'd rehearsed. She used to call me during the day, just to share something funny a coworker said or ask what I wanted for dinner. Those calls stopped. Then the text slowed. Then she stopped telling me anything at all. I'd ask how her day went and get a distracted, fine, or worse, it was a day. No follow-up, no warmth. And the phone. God, the phone. She started carrying it everywhere, like it was a lifeline. Not just in her pocket, but flipped screen down if it was on the table, like she didn't want me to see even the notifications. Once, she left the room for a second and her phone buzzed. Reflexively, I glanced. Just a name, Travis. No last name, no emoji, no context. When she came back and saw me near it, she looked at me like I'd opened her diary and read every page out loud. You don't trust me now, she said, not even waiting for an explanation. She didn't ask if I saw anything. She just accused. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. People have friends, coworkers. But I felt the shift. She no longer touched me when we passed each other in the hallway. No more goodnight kisses, no more random hugs. Even her laugh sounded different, quieter, tighter, like she was afraid of giving too much of herself away. I started working later in the garage just to avoid the silence inside the house. Even our dog, Jasper, picked up on it. He'd follow me instead of her, his tail drooping like he knew something I didn't want to say out loud. Still, I kept pretending. Until one night, lying beside her in bed, watching the blue glow of her phone light up her face while she turned away from me, I finally said it to myself, not to her. She's not here anymore. Not really. And that was the moment I stopped pretending. It didn't take long for the pretending to give way to suspicion. It started with the walks. Lila had never been much of a nighttime person. She'd be in bed by 10, usually curled up with a book or some true crime doc playing on her iPad. But then, out of nowhere, she started going on walks after dinner. Said it helped her clear her head. The first time, I didn't think much of it. Everyone needs space. She grabbed a hoodie, slipped her phone in the pocket, and walked out the door. She didn't come back for nearly an hour. When she did, her cheeks weren't flushed from the cold, and she didn't smell like outside air. No wind in her hair, no slight dampness on her shoes. Instead, her lipstick, something she never wore for our walks, was freshly applied. And she hummed a song under her breath. Something upbeat. Long walk, I said, casually. She shrugged. Just needed the air. Where'd you go? She looked down as she kicked off her shoes. Nowhere really. Just around. That was it. No follow-up. No question about how my evening went, how the piano I was working on came along. Just around and off to the bedroom. The walks continued. A couple times a week at first, then almost every other night. Always after dinner. Always alone. Always back late. Once, I asked if she wanted me to come with her. She laughed. Not in a mean way, more like I just said something adorably clueless. It's my thing, she said. Just need space, Nick. Don't take it personally. I told myself not to. I told myself people change, marriages go through seasons. But that old ache in my stomach wouldn't go away. I couldn't sleep on the night she went walking. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, imagining every possible explanation that didn't involve another man. Then I stopped imagining. Because it wasn't just the walks. It was the conversations, what little of them were left. I'd tell her something about my day, and she'd nod absently. I was already on her phone. I'd ask about hers and get the same vague responses. It was fine. Just busy. Nothing really happened. Nothing really happened? That's what you say when you're hiding everything. I finally asked her one night, straight up, as she got ready for her evening walk. Lila, is something wrong? She didn't even pause. Why would you think that? You've been distant. You don't talk to me anymore. You're always on your phone or leaving the house. Just feels like something's going on. She rolled her eyes. Nick, not everything is some crisis. I'm just trying to get some peace and quiet. You always overthink things. Do I? She spun around. Yes, you do. Jesus. Just because I want some air doesn't mean I'm doing anything shady. I didn't say a word. Just stood there as she grabbed her jacket and slammed the door behind her. 2 nights later, I got a call from Jeff, a buddy of mine from high school. We catch up maybe once every couple months, but this call wasn't casual. Hey, man, I didn't want to get in your business, but I saw something the other night. He sounded weird, awkward, hesitant. What is it? It was Lila, at that wine bar on 5th. She was with some guy. Not like coworkers or anything. They looked close. Too close. I didn't say anything. She was holding his arm, laughing. Real cozy. I'm sorry, man. I thought you should know. I thanked him, hung up, and just sat there in my workshop, staring at the bench. My hands were still, which was unusual. I always needed to be fixing something. I didn't even notice the splinter digging into my palm. Because deep down, I already knew. After Jeff's call, something in me shifted. No more guessing. No more hoping I was wrong. I needed to know. I started with her phone. One evening, while she was in the shower, I picked it up from the nightstand. It used to open with just a swipe. She never kept a lock on it before. But now? Locked. Password changed. Face ID disabled. That was new. That was a breach. Not just of access, but of trust. We'd never hidden anything from each other. Not until now. I stared at the screen like it might crack open and spill everything out. But it just sat there, black and silent, guarding her secrets. When she came out of the bathroom and saw me holding it, her eyes narrowed. What are you doing? I was checking the time, I lied. There's a clock right next to it. Her voice was icy. I set the phone down without a word. She grabbed it like it was made of gold and walked out of the room. A few minutes later, I heard her drawer slide open. When I passed the bedroom again, the phone was gone. After that, it never left her side. Not at dinner, not when we watched TV, not even when she went to the bathroom. She kept it clutched in her hand or slipped into the waistband of her leggings. I once caught her checking it under the table while we ate, screen dimmed, typing with one hand. She thought I didn't see, but I did. I stopped sleeping through the night. Every sound woke me. The creak of the stairs, the click of the front door, the whisper of her voice on the phone in another room when she thought I was out cold. She was slipping away, and she wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. So I stopped asking, stopped confronting, stopped giving her the chance to lie. I waited. A week later, she told me she had to run an errand after dinner. Target, she said. Need a few things. She said it without looking at me. Didn't ask if I wanted to come, didn't even give a time estimate. Just grabbed her keys and left. I followed. I waited 2 minutes, then got in my truck and tailed her at a distance. She didn't head toward Target. She didn't head toward any store. She drove straight across town, past the shopping center, into a neighborhood I didn't recognize. And then she turned into a driveway. A single-story brick house. Neatly kept yard. Lights on in the front room. I parked a block away and walked the rest of the way on foot. She didn't knock. She used a key. I stopped breathing. The porch light lit her face for just a second as she looked around, quick, habitual, like she was making sure no one saw her. Then she disappeared inside, the door shutting softly behind her. I stood across the street, frozen. The windows glowed warmly, shadows moving behind them. 2 figures. Close. Side by side. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. It felt disgusting. Like I'd become someone else. But I needed proof. Not because I didn't believe it, but because some part of me still needed her to lie, and for me to say, no, I know the truth. And now? I did. The next morning was quiet. Lila was already in the kitchen when I came down, dressed like she had somewhere important to be. She didn't look at me. Just sipped her coffee, phone face down on the counter beside her. I stood there, holding the photo in my mind like a ticking grenade. I need to talk to you, I said. She didn't even blink. I'm late for work. It'll only take a minute. She sighed, finally turning her eyes toward me. Tired eyes. Cold. Like I was a stranger asking for a favor. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my phone. Tapped it a few times. Turned the screen toward her. It was the photo, the one I'd taken the night before. Her, standing on that porch, key in hand, walking into a house that wasn't ours. Lila stared at it. Her face didn't change. Not shock, not guilt, not even fear. Just a long exhale through her nose. You followed me, she said. That's what you take from this? She crossed her arms. So now you're spying on me? I had to. Because talking to you doesn't get me anywhere. You stopped answering questions weeks ago. She scoffed, shaking her head. You're paranoid. I stepped closer. That's your explanation? You walk into another man's house with a key, and this is somehow still my fault. You have no idea what you're talking about. Then tell me. She paused, just for a second. Just long enough to confirm everything. You've been pulling away from me for months, I said, quieter now. I tried asking what was wrong. You shut me out. I've begged you to be honest. And you think stalking me is honesty? She snapped. You think creeping around behind my back makes you some noble husband? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're seriously flipping this on me? I'm not flipping anything. I'm telling you what it looks like. You've been insecure, jealous, controlling. No, I held up a hand. You don't get to do that. You don't get to cheat and then act like I pushed you to it. I never said I cheated. You didn't have to. Silence filled the room. She turned away, grabbed her purse, and muttered, I can't do this. I didn't stop her. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just watched the door close behind her. After that, we stopped pretending. We still lived in the same house, technically. Shared a roof, a kitchen, the occasional awkward dinner where nothing but fork scrapes and microwave hums filled the air. No fights. No words, really. Just a Cold War. She didn't admit anything. Never said his name. Never offered even a shred of honesty. But she didn't have to. Something had already died between us. And I was done trying to resurrect it. 2 weeks passed like that. Dead silence, shared space, not even a real argument to mark the tension. Then one Thursday evening, out of nowhere, Lila came downstairs in a sundress and said, I thought I'd cook tonight. I looked up from the piano keys I'd been tuning at the dining table. Yeah. She nodded, too casual. Figured it's been a while since we had a decent meal together. I didn't answer right away. Just watched her move toward the fridge like we hadn't been playing a slow, silent game of divorce chicken. It was so clearly a performance, I almost laughed. She pulled out ingredients with a little hum, like she used to do. Chicken, fresh herbs, even wine. The same bottle we opened on our anniversary last year. She hadn't touched that thing in months. Any special occasion? I asked, wiping my hands on a rag. Nope, she said, not looking up. Just missed us. Us. That word used to mean something. Now it sounded like bait. I played along. All right, I said. Smells good. Dinner was awkward. Not fiery or tense, just fake. We sat at opposite ends of the table, like some sitcom version of a distant couple trying to rekindle something that had already turned to ash. She asked how work was. I told her fine. I asked about her week. She smiled and said, busy, but good. All of it practiced. All of it empty. She poured me wine. I accepted, but didn't drink. I was already full on truth, on plans, on patience. Because what Lila didn't know was that I wasn't waiting for this meal to reconnect. I was waiting for her to confirm exactly what I thought, that she still believed I was too weak to call her bluff, that she could walk in and out of our marriage like a guest at a hotel, that I hadn't already made my decision. What she also didn't know, couldn't possibly guess, was that I'd been talking to someone. Rhea, Lila's cousin. It started with a single conversation at a family birthday a month ago. Rhea had asked if I was okay. Not in a nosy way. In a real, honest-to-God human way. And I broke a little. Told her more than I planned. She listened. And then she kept checking in. Texting me. Calling occasionally. Meeting up for coffee a couple times when I said I just needed air. She didn't judge. She didn't push. She just sat with me in the middle of all this mess and didn't flinch. And over time, something started forming quietly, naturally, without a single stolen kiss or crossed line. Just warmth. Real warmth. The kind I hadn't felt in my own house in over a year. Now, Lila was sitting across from me with a plate of grilled chicken and that little practiced smile. So, she said, I've been thinking. Yeah. She dabbed her mouth with a napkin and met my eyes. I think it's time we end this. The marriage. I nodded. Calm. Expected. Ready. She tilted her head, surprised. That's it. No argument. Nope. A slow smirk spread across her face. Like she had won something. But what she didn't know, what I'd already prepared, was waiting in the drawer upstairs. She thought she was making the first move. But she was already playing my endgame. Lila was still smiling when she stood up from the table. I'll move out next week, she said, like it was some grand favor. We'll keep it civil. No need to make it messy. I nodded slowly. I agree. She tilted her head again. That same look she gave clients when she was in full customer service mode. Honestly, I think this is for the best. We've both been unhappy for a while. Her tone was smooth. Rehearsed. She probably practiced it in the mirror. She wanted to leave on her terms. Wanted to walk away like she was doing me a kindness. Actually, I said, getting up, I have something for you. I walked upstairs while she stayed in the dining room. I imagined her standing there, sipping wine, maybe already texting someone. Him. Probably. Telling him it was done, that the coast was clear. I opened the top drawer of my desk and pulled out the folder. Thick, official, already signed. I had contacted a divorce attorney the day after I followed her. Had the papers drawn up, clean and simple. No alimony. No drawn-out battle. We had no kids. The house was in my name. I came back down and placed the folder on the table beside her plate. What's this? She asked. Divorce papers, I said. Already signed. Her expression faltered. Just for a second. You already filed? I nodded. Been ready for a while. She opened the folder and scanned the top page. Her fingers tightened on the edges. You didn't even wait to talk to me about it. You made your decision weeks ago. I just made it official. She didn't sit down, just hovered there, caught between pride and panic. The upper hand she thought she had suddenly gone. You don't want to try counseling? She asked, almost too fast. You didn't want counseling. You wanted out. She opened her mouth again, maybe to argue, maybe to cry, maybe to play the victim card. But before she could speak, the doorbell rang. Right on cue. I'll get that, I said, walking to the door. Lila didn't follow. I think she froze when she heard the voice in the hallway. Hey, Nick. It was Rhea. She stepped inside, casual, kind, holding a small brown bag from the bakery near her place. She'd picked up muffins. I hadn't even asked her to. She stopped when she saw Lila standing by the table. Lila's face went white. Rhea, she said, eyes wide. Hey, Rhea said, a little hesitant but calm. I didn't realize you were still here. What are you doing here? Lila snapped. She's with me, I said simply. With you? Her voice shot up an octave. You're dating my cousin? We've been seeing each other, I said. Yes. You've got to be kidding me. Lila turned from me to Rhea, fury bubbling up so fast I could almost hear it fizz. This is disgusting. You're my blood. You knew what I was going through and what you were going through. I interrupted. You mean the affair you never admitted to? The marriage you abandoned while still sleeping under my roof. She spun back to me. You're unbelievable. You set this up. You waited for me to say it first so you could play this little game. This isn't a game, Lila, I said. You ended this a long time ago. I'm just finishing what you started. Rhea stepped beside me, arms crossed. She wasn't smug, but she didn't flinch either. Lila's eyes burned as she looked between us. You're both sick, she hissed. This is psychological abuse. Manipulation. Or maybe, I said quietly, you just finally ran out of people to fool. She grabbed her purse and stormed out the front door without another word. The silence she left behind was the most peaceful sound I'd heard in months. I thought that would be the end of it. I handed her the papers, she stormed out, and for a few days, I believed we were done. But people like Lila don't just walk away. Not when they feel humiliated. Not when their version of the story doesn't get to be the final one. It started with a letter from her attorney. The language was sharp, dramatic, claims of emotional cruelty, neglect, verbal control. Apparently, I had made the marriage a living hell. According to her, I'd isolated her, discouraged friendships, made her feel small. She even claimed I monitored her movements. The night I followed her to that house, she painted it as years of obsessive surveillance. She said I'd driven her to seek companionship outside the marriage because she feared for her mental health. I read the whole thing without flinching. Then I called my lawyer. He laughed bitterly as he flipped through the folder. She's going for the full smear campaign, he said. But we've got her cornered. We started pulling receipts. The photo I took that night? Exhibit A. Screenshots of her late-night transactions, rideshare charges, fancy dinners, hotel charges that didn't match any business trip. Exhibit B. Bank records showing funds moved from our joint account into a separate credit card, one I didn't even know existed until now. Exhibit C. And then the messages. The ones I eventually pulled from an old backup of her cloud account before she changed her passwords. She'd forgotten that a few notifications had been mirrored to my old iPad, the one we used to share to stream movies. There they were. Dozens of messages between her and Travis. The tone left no room for interpretation. Not coworkers. Not friends. Not even discreet. You make me feel alive again, she wrote in one. Can't wait till this is behind me and I can be yours fully. Fully. She had written that 3 weeks before our anniversary. I didn't respond emotionally. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just compiled it all. My lawyer presented the evidence to the court with the precision of a surgeon. Calm, clean, devastating. Lila, on the other hand, came into the courtroom like she was starring in a drama. Dressed in muted tones, tearful at the right moments, flanked by her lawyer and armed with tissues. She testified with practiced sorrow, describing me as cold, distant, controlling without raising his voice. She was good. I'll give her that. For a minute, I saw the judge watching her with sympathy. But then we presented the timeline. The texts. The financial trail. The photos. Her whole performance crumbled. Her lawyer's objections grew weaker with every exhibit. And when my attorney pointed out the transfer of over $6,000 from our joint savings to pay for a weekend getaway, complete with matching photos from her Instagram, cleverly cropped but timestamped, the judge's face hardened. By the end of it, there was no mistaking who had broken the vows. The ruling was swift. I kept the house. I kept my savings. No alimony. No compensation. She walked out of that courtroom with nothing but her purse and whatever illusions she had left. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt relieved. The war was over, and I had survived it without becoming like her. The weeks after the court ruling were quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. No slammed doors. No icy glances over coffee. No silent meals at opposite ends of the table. Just peace. But it wasn't all relief. Peace has a way of making you hear things you'd buried under noise, things like doubt, regret, and questions you'll never get answers to. Rhea moved in slowly, without any kind of announcement. It wasn't planned, exactly. She just started spending more nights at the house, helping me fix little things Lila always complained about but never lifted a finger for. One day, she brought over her favorite tea, then a jacket, then her toothbrush. She made the place warmer. Not just physically, but emotionally. She laughed without forcing it. She asked about my day and really listened. She'd sit beside me while I worked on a piano, just sipping coffee, quiet but present. It should have felt perfect. But it didn't. Not completely. There were days when I'd be in the middle of restoring a keyboard, something that usually brought me focus, and my hands would freeze. A memory would sneak in. Lila humming in the kitchen. Lila pressing her cold feet against mine under the covers. Lila, before all of this. That's the thing they don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't erase the good stuff. It just poisons it. Leaves you wondering if any of it was ever real, or if it was all just groundwork for the moment they'd break your heart. Rhea never pushed. She never asked me to talk about Lila, or what I was feeling. She just let me be. Sometimes, I'd open up on my own, like when I found an old photo in a drawer, Lila and me in our 20s, smiling in front of the first piano I ever restored. She used to love what I did, I said, mostly to myself. Rhea placed her hand over mine. She stopped loving a lot of things, she said softly. Don't blame yourself for that. I nodded, but I didn't speak again for a while. I tried to be fully present with Rhea. I wanted to give her the version of me that Lila never appreciated. But I had scars now, places inside me that flinched even when nothing was wrong. Trust didn't grow back easily. Still, I was healing. Slowly. Quietly. Like a crack in wood sealed with care still visible, but stronger than before. Lila tried to contact me once after the final ruling. A single email. It said, I hope you're happy now. That was it. I didn't respond. I didn't even think about it for long. Because I realized something. I didn't need to win. I just needed to stop losing myself. Rhea and I sat on the porch one evening, drinking tea as the sun dipped low behind the trees. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was bracing for something to go wrong. Lila may have broken the marriage, but I refused to let her break the man. And in that quiet moment, I finally believed it. I was free.